No, you know what you need to hire is a journalist. If I hire somebody that can get the stories that are the stories that happen with your customers, the stories that happen with your technicians, the stories that happen with your community, those amazing things that are happening out with a focused, like intentional heartbeat to the brand. But like the thing that's hard to find and the thing that is really a competitive advantage that's hard to replicate is bringing those brand stories out over and over and over again.
Recruiting has got to be a lifeblood of the business. It has to be something that you're constantly doing. And if you're a large enough business and you're fortunate enough to bring somebody in-house for that, then that's amazing. But if not, it's really on you as the business owner to prioritize that. And there are people that I've talked to that make recruiting a lifestyle. They're handing out business cards at gas stations. They're handing them out at parts warehouses. They also encourage their technicians to go spread the word to other people that they know. We want that type of positive organic growth.
What marketing should look like in your business as a $1 million revenue business versus 5 versus 10. So I got a lot of thoughts on this.
1 million, 3 million, and 6 million are generally the toughest humps to get over in business growth, and 1 million is
On today's episode of Book Solid, what your marketing should look like at 1 million, 5 million, and $10 million in revenue.
the viral story that sparked a national debate about the trade's labor shortage.
And the one comment in a Reddit thread that reframes how every home service business owner should think about growth.
All right, let's go. There was a YouTube video that I watched over the weekend. I think maybe you sent it to me, but it was about what marketing should look like in your business as a $1 million revenue business versus 5 versus 10. So I got a lot of thoughts on this. There was a lot about the video that I kind of agreed with. There was quite a bit that I would challenge a little bit. But let's just start with the $1 million business or getting to that first $1 million business. How do you think about marketing in that journey from 0 to $1 million?
Yeah, so, I mean, look, 1 million, 3 million, and 6 million are generally the toughest humps to get over in business growth. And 1 million is, it's really the basics that they've got to focus on at that stage. One, and this should be a given, but it's not, you've got to take really great care of your customers. Getting really great reviews online is so crucial. And then outside of that, I think that there's a lot of free marketing, like reviews, that are oftentimes overlooked. There's tons of free marketing opportunity inside of Facebook neighborhood groups, right? Mom groups. I'm a huge believer in mom groups, focusing on creating a good local reputation within your network and getting those people to go write about you online should be your primary focus.
Okay, but in order to do that, and I think you're right, but let's just get really tactical, because maybe there's a business owner out here that's starting up and they're trying to get to that 1 million. In order to get reviews, you have to first have a place to get reviews. Right. So would you say the first thing that you would want to do, at least from a digital perspective, is setting up your Google business profile, setting up your Facebook business page? Is that where you're going with that?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, got it. What about when you think about spending money in some type of advertising? And let's just think about where you start online. Like, again, you're trying to get to $1 million. What advertising, channels are you thinking about?
Yeah, so I think if you're at those lower revenue tiers, you don't have a whole lot of money to experiment with.
Yeah.
And so you have to look at, if I'm going to invest, where is the lowest risk investment going to be? And fortunately, one of the biggest shifts that we've seen is the advent of cost per lead opportunities, right? So one of the most powerful assets you could do right on the heels of your GBP and ratings and making sure your citations are all in place would be get a robust LSA profile going and look for some of these other cost per lead channels. It's a great way to just get leads that you don't have to, if it's a bad lead, you've got some recourse, right? So I'd say that was at that lowest level, that's probably tactically where I would say. And then social media, very focused social media in a neighborhood, at the neighborhood level almost, would be some opportunities as well. So as you start to initially build that brand, usually at that level, it is the hand-to-hand combat inside of a very discrete neighborhood.
Yeah.
And you need to turn your early customers into advocates wherever you can.
Yeah, agreed.
And a lot of those customers are moms, and they're the ones that are posting on those
100%.
Facebook groups anyway, right?
You know what? Mascots. If you have I forget who did it. There was a company that came to our house, and they did some type of, I think it was a plumbing service, and they gave our girls like these little red, like smiley yellow balls, right? And the girls played with them and they stayed around the house. And I wish I could remember their name, but it was enough of an impression that at least for a while, that thing stayed in our house. That's low cost. It's branding. It's cute. It's a differentiated experience. So don't miss those opportunities.
One thing that I just didn't agree with, and I think I knew where these guys were going, but they talked about not really investing much in SEO early on.
Yeah.
And I agree. Like you gotta temper this, but there are some things that you can do that I think are low friction.
Yeah.
And high value with time around SEO. So again, number one, make sure that you've got like an understanding of visually how you want your brand to be, so you can create a great website. You can make sure that your website's structured like from a technical SEO perspective, that you've got title tags and your H1s and your image tags and all those things are dialed in. Again, those are pretty low cost. And then making sure that you got all your citations aligned, right? If you're making sure that you've got that link back to your Google profile, your name, address, phone numbers, all accurate.
Better Business Bureau.
Yeah, those are just low-hanging fruit things that you can do that are SEO oriented, right? Now, they're not the heavy cost things like link building and content, but I don't think that you should just bypass SEO altogether on your path to $1 million.
I don't disagree with you. I think it's just important to have the right expectations behind what you should expect to get from that.
Yeah.
Because while you have to have those things, it may not drive immediate revenue.
No, it won't drive immediate revenue. You're right. That's 100% fact, right? But again, you got to be willing to make some incremental investments that you're thinking about from a branding and a long-term annuity perspective, not just pouring all of your money into immediate lead generation.
I think of that organic piece as like pouring concrete, right? It doesn't necessarily harden overnight, and the deeper you have poured it over time, the more you can build on top of it, right?
That's true. That's a great analogy. What about the path? What about the $5 million business? What are your thoughts on what businesses should be doing in that $5 million revenue mark?
When you start getting up to 5 million, you've got a little bit more of elbow room to justify spending some more money in maybe some PPC.
So if you're $5 million, sorry to interrupt, but if you're $5 million, what is the typical percentage of revenue investment in marketing that you are talking to businesses about making at that point?
Good question. Some of this does depend on their brand equity and then also their mindset around how aggressive they want to be. We're typically seeing somewhere between 8 and 10%, and some that are more aggressive are closer to 11 to 15%.
Yeah,
and that's, by the way, Jamie, that's of their revenue goal. That's not of the revenue that they're doing. So if you have a business that's doing 1 million and they want to get to 3 million, they should be spending somewhere between 8 and 12% of that $3 million goal.
Yeah. Okay. So going back to percentage of revenue, how are they spending that money?
So they're splitting it up between, at this point, when you start getting to 5 million, you should be more invested in SEO. The reality is that we want to offset some of the advertising costs to drive in new customers through organic search.
Yes.
And so we need to shift more focus towards brand equity and SEO. And then at this point, now we're looking at how do we have a very diversified advertising strategy? Yeah. How do we split our advertising dollars across different channels so that we're stretching our dollars as far as possible?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the key, is diversification, right? You only have at the lower levels, you only have a few levers that you have to pull, and the rest of it is hand-to-hand combat, great customer experience, great customer service over and over. But when you get to that level, I think the trap that has happened in the past is you could it worked in the past. You could have a great Google business profile, run LSAs and some PPC, and you could have a business.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
That's
just all in on Google.
Yeah, just all in on Google, right? And that's not a long-term solution. The highest performers are diversified, and most organizations, if they're not diversified, it's usually not a function of they don't know they need to be, but they just either have the access to the technology or the help necessary to diversify in an ongoing way. What you'll see is some people we're going to try this brand, we're going to try this ad channel and that ad channel and that ad channel and see what happens. And then there's no learning from it. It burns through. And
that's right.
You just have a story about it. Well, that didn't work or it did work. Well, you don't really know.
Yep.
That's why more sophisticated advertising platforms really are required for home services now.
Yeah. Thinking of how do I actually capture the lead from the channel all the way down to, did a job happen? What was the value of the job? How much revenue did I collect?
What were the characteristics of that client? Where were they? What's their demographics?
Yeah.
And then pulling that all the way back, which is also something that hasn't happened in the past.
Yeah.
I think that this part is one of the biggest things that prevents $5 million businesses from getting to 10 million is that they don't have that clarity. So they start spending blindly, trying to hamster wheel their way to 10 million, and they never get anywhere.
Yeah.
That's well said.
All right, so what about the $10 million business? I've got some thoughts around hiring an in-house marketing person at this point. But just from a marketing perspective, actually, we started with you last time. We'll start with you. What's the marketing landscape like and strategy like for a $10 million a year business?
Well, I think once you've, assuming it's residential, I would say that it really starts to become about brand equity. And so you are pouring more into, you have more to pour into brand. And I think one of the things that I've seen is that when you get to that level, oftentimes it's not that you can't go get the market that's out there. A lot of times it's a capacity issue, right? You run out of, maybe and it's this thing of, well, we have HVAC technicians, but we're low on plumbing. So it's almost like you're trying to balance your capacity relative to your market demand, and then it becomes a balancing act. So it isn't as linear as spend 10% and get it, right? You have to also backfill and have the capacity.
Right.
At the same time. So that's where, back to some of the other stories we've talked about, recruiting is important. Culture is important. Not having, it really hurts if you lose a technician as you're trying to grow and you've got this marketing infrastructure in place.
So we're talking about brand. When you think about brand marketing for a $10 million business, is your advice to them spend all of your money in digital?
Definitely not. And actually, that's why I agree with the comment that you made about bringing an in-house person in. I think that getting more involved in the community at a grassroots level that's when that becomes much more important. Mm-hmm. To have a brand presence where you're getting out to the school systems and to
sponsoring little league games and the soccer games.
You need a representative to go out and show who you are as a company and who your culture is.
Call out. That's a great call out.
I also think at 10 million, you've got the question to figure out which direction you want to go with your organization. Do you want to be a household name, or do you want to sell? Because the reality is that the way we market those businesses are different. If you have an aspiration to take your $5 million business and sell it to private equity in 3 years, the strategy that you implement for marketing is going to be different than somebody that wants to own that market and be the household name.
That's fair too. It's interesting. You mentioned the value of a marketing person being more focused on grassroots and more kind of community involvement. It's almost business development as much as it is marketing. Where I actually think that the hiring the in-house marketing person kind of goes wrong, because I've seen this play itself out hundreds of times between independent home service companies and big franchise organizations we work with, is the marketing turnover in these businesses is like, it's every 2 years maximum, almost.
100%.
And look, candidly, there's just a lot of people that just, they may be experts in like one area of digital, like SEO or paid search, or they're media buyers, offline media buyers. It's very hard to find an expert, like a generalist that's really good.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it's, again, not hiring a marketing person isn't necessarily a bad idea, but you need to understand what the trade-offs are.
Yeah, and I think I did a lot of work in healthcare, and it reminds me of I had a CMO of a healthcare organization ask me we're hiring somebody, a new marketing person. What would you recommend? And I thought about it for a while. I was like, they were alluding to, should it be an SEO expert or a PPC expert or a social media expert? And I said, no, you know what you need to hire is a journalist. You need to hire somebody that can get the stories that are the stories that happen with your customers, the stories that happen with your technicians, the stories that happen with your community, and get those amazing things that are happening out.
Yeah.
With a focused, like intentional heartbeat to the brand. Like there's enough great companies and technologies that can handle the diversification of ad spend in today's world. That's easy to find. It's on your shirt. But like the thing that's hard to find and the thing that is really a competitive advantage that's hard to replicate is bringing those brand stories out over and over and over again.
Yeah. Well, look, it was a great video. Lots to think about there. We can actually post the video in the show notes if anyone wants to check that out. Let's move on. This episode is brought to you by Scorpion. Most marketing companies stop at leads. Scorpion goes further by connecting every click, every call, and every campaign to actual revenue. With integrated data and clear reporting, you can see exactly what drives your best jobs and double down on what works. Visit scorpion.co to learn more. All right, so next story is, quote, "No, the trades are not hiring," sparking a national debate. So there was an article on Yahoo, I think it was an electrician, talking about the fact that he applied to all these jobs and he couldn't get hired. I got to be honest with you. I read some of his quotes. Kind of understand why the guy didn't get hired. He didn't have the greatest attitude in the world. Right. So what's your take on this idea that the trades are not hiring? I know we touched on this in the last episode. Used to be in recruiting. What's your point of view on this article?
Yeah, I'm a huge believer that culture, like I said on our last episode, takes over the fact that they may or may not be qualified as an electrician. And so when I look at some of our best clients, like Patrick Fee that I mentioned on the last one, he'll turn people away, even if he needs a plumber, because they're not right for the culture.
You're saying this guy wouldn't have been right for his culture?
I'm saying this guy I don't think would be good for anybody's culture.
Yeah, when you use
OSHA,
I think it was. Yeah, OSHA. That's not really going to bode well in like anyone. It kind of gives you an idea of what this guy's
and imagine how that guy interviews, right? I mean,
yeah, that's good.
Or is it a customer house?
Is it what?
Or is that at a customer's house, right?
Oh yeah,
right.
100%, 100%. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, it shows the danger of a narrative.
Yeah.
The trades are not hiring. Well, no, the trades are just not hiring you.
Right. Right.
I mean,
it's true.
That's
true.
I mean, and if you look at what this guy wants, like if you go back to some of the other conversations we had about what makes for great culture, right? People want to belong. People want to feel connected. They want to feel valued. They want to feel seen. They want to feel part of something. This guy wants that too. He wants the same thing. His just pathway to get there is wrong, right? And if you look at the way he got what he wanted was to go on Reddit and lament this story. And so he got what he wanted. He got a bunch of other people that were also acting like victims to go and jump in and go, yes, the world is falling. You're right. Everybody's against us, all of that. And so he got the validation. He got the connection. He got like things that affirmed his story. But man, that story and everybody in that thread that's like, yes, they're the exact opposite of what winning cultures look like.
Yeah, and by the way, I don't think that story worked out very well for him because he deleted that post. So I'm not sure that he was very happy.
Somebody deleted that. I don't know if it was him, but somebody deleted that post.
I hope I hope he learned from that, and I hope he comes out the other side of it and becomes the guy that everybody wants to hire.
Yeah, I mean, look, and at the end of the day, I mean, I think this is an electrician. Look, I mean, with all these data centers that are being built today, you're talking about trillions of dollars of capital being invested in these data centers. I would argue there's probably no better time to be an electrician.
And guess what? Those data centers require plumbing, and they require HVAC,
100%.
and they require all this kind of same stuff. We've got a number of we've got some great work going on in the commercial mechanical space, and it is hot. And so really, like, trades isn't just residential. I mean, that's the commercial side is huge right now too. So.
Now, the other side of this article, though, that I would maybe just challenge us to think about on the business side, on the recruiting side rather, would be look. I think a lot of these plumbing, HVAC, a lot of trades businesses, they don't really have sophisticated recruiting and hiring processes built in.
For sure.
Right, so what that could lead to is if you have a bunch of job openings as a plumbing business for plumbers, and you're flooded or inundated with applications, and if you don't really have that process prioritized, in like how you intake those, how you get interviews scheduled, I can see that causing some frustration. But it doesn't mean that these businesses aren't hiring.
Right,
it just means they need to kind of reorient around their process. What are your thoughts? You were in recruiting again. How do you think about those things?
Recruiting has got to be a lifeblood of the business. It has to be something that you're constantly doing. And if you're a large enough business and you're fortunate enough to bring somebody in-house for that, then that's amazing. But if not, it's really on you as the business owner to prioritize that. And there are people that I've talked to that make recruiting a lifestyle. They're handing out business cards at gas stations. They're handing them out at parts warehouses. They also encourage their technicians to go spread the word to other people that they know. And that's something that should spread. We want that type of positive organic growth as opposed to a guy like this that's going to come in and be a cancer to the culture. And that one guy could do so much more damage to the culture than the benefit of just hiring 5 more people.
Yeah, that's a good call out. Anything you have to add on that?
No, I just think that, like you said, as we think about all of these, what do the highest performers do? Is they are consistent, right? So you don't wait until you are down 3 techs to start recruiting. You recruit all the time. That's you market all the time. You know, all these things are all the time.
Yeah. And I do think, again, if you think about, and in an earlier episode, we talked about private equity and private equity coming into these businesses. I think one of the expertises that they do bring to businesses that they end up buying is they bring more robust frameworks for processes and HR and things of that nature. So they're going to be stepping up their game in recruiting, and that's who you're going to be competing with. So you're going to have to step up your game if you want to compete for the great technicians. Well, you want to say something?
Controversial opinion, man.
Oh,
Because look, there's also a huge narrative right now that that private equity doesn't prioritize culture, that they are prioritizing profitability. And so there's the argument that private equity may be more inclined to hire a guy like that because his resume looks appropriate, and they need somebody in a truck, and they need that truck producing revenue, and they'll prioritize that need.
Well,
fair, but I mean, look, we have a bunch of relationships with private equity backed businesses, executives, non-executives, people that just work in these organizations. From my point of view, the people that I talk to most often, they seem to really value culture still.
Well,
they seem to.
I think we say private equity doesn't value. Like, the other thing that's worth mentioning is that private equity is not a monolithic thing.
Yes.
Not all platforms are created equal.
True. Amen.
Not all platforms have the same culture. There are platforms that have amazing, world class, and there's platforms that are still struggling, like to try to find their identity. And so, like, there are those that are you can see it, and we see it in some of the we've just recently done some amazing content with some of the GMs for a big platform of ours, Southern Home Services, that like we got to see, like, just it's these incredible videos, and the energy of the local culture is amazing, and it's coming out on the video. But we also know that, like, there's other platforms, they haven't found their footing yet. And so really, ultimately, that's downstream, not from technology, marketing, that's downstream from ultimately leadership.
They come in with an approach that, hey, a business should be ran a certain way, and home services doesn't operate like just any other industry. There's some nuances that make it unique, culture being a huge part of that. Technicians are sensitive. I can tell you from my background that technicians are pretty easy to get their feelings hurt. And if you bring in the wrong person just because you have a need to fill a truck, it can be devastating to the culture, and ultimately that can impact how safe their investment is.
Well, look, I think the takeaway here is that we all believe this article is pretty bogus. Yeah. There's plenty of job opportunities in the trades. I think that the key takeaways, though, is, like, again, how you approach the job market as someone looking for a job is really important. You need to be professional. You need to be proactive. You need to be about culture, about delivering value. And then if you're a business hiring, you need to just have your things together so that you can make the interview process and the hiring process, smooth and attractive to good candidates.
Yeah, I have a young man that goes to our church, and he's just got into the trades, got certified for an HVAC technician last year, got his first job. And it was one of those bigger organizations where they brought him on, and then they kind of, when the season went down, they just kind of cleaned the slate and let go of kind of anybody that was remnant technicians. They just had too many, and it really affected him, right? And I've had to kind of encourage him to say, hey, man, look, I would tell this gentleman here the same thing. I was like, man, find the company you really want to work for, and then don't just rely on click, submit, application. You need to go there, knock on the door, make your case, be a salesperson, and like that you'll get hired, right? Yep. You'll get hired by the right one. So
that's a good call out. Well, this is a fun one. I know this is 2 episodes now. We talked about recruiting, but it's such a constant theme that we hear about.
Yep.
So I don't think this is going to get old. All right, let's go to our next story.
If you're liking this episode, or just me, make sure to follow wherever you get your podcasts. New episodes drop every other week. All right, let's get to our next story.
All right, so our last topic of the day, really interesting Reddit post. Everybody's got a favorite home service business. There was a long Reddit post of kind of people, arguing if they were starting a home service business, what type would they start and why. Before we get into some of the comments, of which there were some interesting comments, I'd like to ask you, Woody, if you're going to start a home service business today, which type of business would you start and why?
So I would start either a plumbing or an HVAC business.
You got to pick one.
Okay, I would start an HVAC business.
Okay.
The reason why is because the tickets are higher than plumbing,
okay,
and because it's the industry that I know the best. Feel like I could bring the most value to that space.
Okay. Now, this Reddit article would argue that to avoid those types of businesses because, A, you need a license.
Yep.
You need a decent amount of insurance. Just the startup costs alone to just before you even move a truck and run a job are a little bit high. So what's your argument against that?
Yeah, I mean, look, how many stories do you hear of somebody that started with $500 in their pocket and a truck? The reality is that there is a starting place. Now, the license is a piece, but the reality is you can rent a license today and build a brand with somebody else's license. It's probably not a narrative that a lot of people think is attractive, but it's the truth. And the challenge that I run into with some of these other businesses that are maybe lower startup costs is that the average service ticket is much lower.
Yeah.
And so, like, if I were to look at something that I use, which is like a poop scoop company, they come out once every month or once every 2 weeks, and they get like $30 from me. So they're making $60 a month, and that takes several months to recoup the customer acquisition cost that they got from me in the first place. Because I clicked on their PPC ad. I clicked on their pay-per-click ad.
Man, that's wrong. You know better than that.
Yeah, well, as a marketer, I believe in pay-per-click for sure. So
fair enough.
As do the people that get my support.
Okay, so what about you? If you were starting a home service business from scratch, what type of business would you start and why?
Well, I'll always think about a couple of things. What are the things that I want to do the least around my home?
Yes.
Right? Okay, so let's start there.
All
right?
of the things.
Pretty much, because you and I grew up in a small town. I spent years and years weeding the flower beds and mowing lawns and
Picking
all
up
that.
hay.
Oh, and I just don't want to do that anymore. Okay, so we have an incredible lawn guy. But if I was thinking like, what are other things that are niche that you don't want to do that have been very interesting that I've seen recently, and we have this service. One of them is this incredible service that will come around and wash your trash cans. Have you seen this? It's a subscription service. The guy comes once a quarter. Maybe I think it's once a quarter. He comes and he brings these giant things. He sticks it into your trash cans, and I kid you not, your trash cans smell like baked cookies when he's done. My wife loves this, loves it because our trash cans outside our house never smell bad, and they don't attract flies as much as normal trash cans. So in terms, I don't even know what this costs, but we're never going to turn it off. Right? That's a great home services business. It's just people just set it and forget it.
Yep.
One other one that I've seen recently that would be like an easy entry point would be just pressure washing, window cleaning, minor roof repair, but on a subscription basis. Like you need this kind of every quarter or twice a year. Just set it and forget it. I mean, if I went around a neighborhood, you could pretty much get everybody to subscribe to that.
I could see pressure washing. The question that I would ask myself if I was going to start the trash can washing business is how many people are going on the internet and looking for that? And like, how do you actually get in front of enough people that are open to the idea of hiring or paying for subscription like that?
That's fair. What I would challenge though is that, like, again, I think that's probably more of a sales job to start.
Yeah.
Right. If you're going to do that, you're going to go into a neighborhood. You're going to knock the doors.
Makes sense.
And I know Brian's wife very well. Most women are not going to say no to that, right? Like,
and she's going to tell people about it.
Yeah, and then that's the thing. She's going to tell people about it, right? So you get this like word of mouth buzz, unlike a plumbing or HVAC company that only thinks about you when they got a problem, and that's why internet is so important.
True.
Right. But I think, I don't know. I think it's an interesting. I've never heard of that one. That's an interesting one.
You should try it.
Well, I think that is the benefit of being like a single guy that lives alone. I don't really care a whole lot about
Fair
that.
enough.
My trash cans outside are far enough away from my house to not really impact that. But I don't know, if somebody knocked on my door, I'd probably say yes and buy it.
Yeah.
Okay. So
you heard that, local companies.
Yeah. So if I were going to start a business in this category, what I would probably do is a spin on one of the things you talked about. Look, I'm not a handy guy. All right, you guys both know me. Like, I don't know anything about plumbing, and I don't know anything about HVAC. Right? I really don't. Never really been like of interest of like learning how to be handy. So I would want to do something that I could handle, as much as I may not love it, that I could actually do and offer as a service, and that I could sell. Mm-hmm. Right. So I'd want something that I could walk around the neighborhood. So it would be some type of like combination of landscaping, window cleaning, and power washing. Like keep the aesthetics of your home. I would do it on a subscription basis.
Yep.
And I would try to build a business around that. And I think it's niche enough. And I also think that there's some interesting marketability on how you frame that service.
Yeah.
You don't frame it as a landscaping service or a window cleaning. Or you frame it something around like making your home beautiful.
Yeah.
Right? Making your outside living space beautiful. I don't know. I think there's something there.
Home beautification subscription.
Yeah, and I think that those combination of services are they're low cost enough to kind of offer at scale.
Yeah.
They work well together, and I think that the average ticket value is pretty great. And look, at the end of the day, you do a great job. and you convince somebody to throw a little sign in the yard, you get massive curb appeal.
Yeah,
Right.
that's very interesting, because if you start to think about that, the technician that you need for all of those things is the guy that also does your pool.
Yeah.
If you have a pool,
Yep.
same guy that does the pool could do the pressure washing, could do the window cleaning, could do the landscaping. I mean, we should go do this.
Side hustle alert. I think one of the things that you did bring up earlier, though, that it is worth touching on, since we are a marketing company and we help businesses market. If again, going back to the startup, if you were starting an HVAC company today, what would be the first 3 things you would do from a marketing perspective?
Yeah. So the first thing that I would do is go get a good looking website and go get a place for us to go get some reviews online. I think it's important that we've got that covered as a basis.
So like a Google profile.
Like a Google profile,
We'll talk
exactly.
about that on a
Facebook.
previous episode, okay?
That's
So
right.
that's
yeah.
number one.
Number one. That's
Okay.
exactly right. The second thing that I would do is I would focus on how am I going to service my customers and make sure that I'm priced appropriately. One of the common misconceptions is that if you're a small company that you should be competitive by being one of the cheapest. And
Okay.
I'm loudly against that narrative. I think that if you're a small company, you're offering boutique service and you should actually be one of the most expensive. So I would focus in on how am I going to price and how am I going to build value around the service that I'm offering.
Okay. All right.
And then the third is how do I create a system for referrals and how do I motivate my clients to share their experience with me, to the point that you made about having a beautiful home. HVAC isn't sexy. People don't get excited about working with an HVAC company, but if we can provide great value and a great experience, we need some sort of system to get people to tell others about that so that we don't have to market as quickly.
Yeah, okay. If I were going to start this home beautification company that I just mentioned, I think that what I would do is I would first buy yard signs, right? That I could ask the customer at the end of the day, hey, can I just put this sign in your yard?
Yeah.
Right? That would enable like people, at least in the neighborhood, to just kind of get some word of mouth buzz. Second thing I would do is make sure that again, your first was set up a website, set up my Google profile, have a process in place to get reviews. Every time I touched a customer's, project, asking them for reviews, using some technology to kind of help me expedite that process. And I think the third thing that I would probably do is make sure that I've got early on that I've got a CRM set up that I can immediately start marketing to every one of my customers. I want to start building a list early and then marketing to that list often.
Yeah. If I could add to that, I think what comes to mind is I would have a budget set aside to actually go and do initial services for free, so that you could build that initial base with like literally knocking on the door and being like, hey, this is the service we offer. I'm going to do it for you for free in return for a referral or a review. This actually happened to us. A fertilizer company came to our house while we were out of town and fertilized our yard. I think it was accidental, but our yard came back and it was like this amazing green thing. And there was a yard sign that they had put there, and we were out of town. Well, of course I called them and I was like, they had gotten the wrong house. But of course we love this. It was amazing. So it was like almost like a try and buy.
Yeah.
Well, what actually happened? Our yard stood out so much on our street that at least 4 other people on our street now have the same service.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
It's accidental marketing almost.
it was,
Yeah,
but the principle worked.
I would double down on the CRM thing for just a moment. Let's assume for a second that we do the things that we're talking about doing well and we start building momentum out the gate. One of the challenges that you're going to run into is managing the business on top of growing it at the same time, especially when it's just you. And in this article that we're looking at, it mentioned that there was a landscaper that lost a client that was paying them $2,000 a month because they called once a week for 3 weeks and he missed each call. The reality is
I
that
saw that, the landscaper.
there is so much affordable technology out there that should never allow small businesses to let things like that fall through the cracks. And an account like that is devastating to somebody that's just trying to get off their feet.
Yeah, you start a business, you got to make sure that you got somebody answering the phones, responding to text messages, again, because there's just so much choice out there.
Yeah.
If you're not there to pick up the phone,
First.
exactly. If you're not first, you're not going to get the job. It's a great call out. Speaking of marketing, I did come up with a name for my fictitious business. You guys ready for it?
Yeah.
Shrub-a-dub-dub.
Shrub it.
Good?
Yes, I love it. I love it. Shrub it, dub dub.
You
guys
can
don't
do a
like
market
it. That's
study on
okay.
that?
Look,
Okay.
I
think-
just came out of the top of my head. Okay?
It's like a shrub in a bathtub.
Yeah, listen, guys. This is fly by the seat of your pants.
Yeah,
type
all right,
thing.
I could
all
tell.
right.
I could tell. It's okay.
See that.
All right, that's it for this one. Remember, leads are good, but being book solid is the point. Until next time. Bye.